This month, I had the pleasure of sitting down for a conversation with one of our brokers here at MORE Realtors. Hailing from the hills of North Carolina, John Williams. John has been my go-to guy since I started in this business almost 8 years ago, and his depth of real estate knowledge is truly unmatched. He's not just someone who talks the talk, but he does walk the walk, leading by example and bringing that same wisdom into his own daily practice. What I appreciate most about John is that he's an agent first broker, the kind of leader who always makes time to help, guide, and school up agents when they need it. Without further ado, my conversation with John Williams. Mr. John Williams.
That's the G-man.
I appreciate you making some time today to do this. I know you're a busy man and you charge by the minute. So we'll get this thing rolling here. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Been running for sure. Even more so. Had a nice smooth closing today, which is always helpful. And
Smooth closing, and you mentioned going over to a client's house who's been doing some work on their
yeah,
on
I'm
their
look, making sure they're in the process of getting the house ready for sale. It's over in St. Peter's. So
St. Peter's. Little teaser there for maybe a coming soon out in St. Peter's.
yeah, it could be like somebody's Christmas present.
All right, there we go. There we go. Well, I really appreciate you stopping in today, John. You are one of the realest dudes in real estate, and I don't say that lightly. If I may, there was something I want to share that led me to believe that you are one of the realest dudes, not only as my broker, but just a real guy. I was dealing with a situation last year on a transaction. Let me preface this by saying John is my go-to for all things compliance related, just real estate wisdom, manhood wisdom, everything. Dealing with a situation last year where I had a transaction that was going pretty smoothly. I felt good about where things were headed. Get to closing day, and there was a bit of you just lack of coordination on my part, not like deal breaker lack of coordination, but to the point where it ruffled some feathers, not of the client, but of the client's family. And John, I don't know if you recall, but I told you about a situation where I felt like I was disrespected in that conversation with the family member and said some things that I probably shouldn't have. And it later cost me some business side point. But you had came to you about the situation and I was like, John, did I do this wrong? Thinking in reflection, maybe some things I could have left unsaid, maybe some things I could have said better, but I cited the principle of the matter. John, I don't know if you're going to recall this one, but I felt disrespect and I said, John, it was the principle. It was the principle that made me react the way I did. And you pulled a quote from the movie Barbershop, 2002 film that I
One of
did
my
not think you had any mm, bit of knowledge on, but had to go up, look up the scene about two characters who were having a dispute over something similar. The one character wanted to fight a gentleman over a $10 dispute, maybe costing him $50,000 in that dispute. And the friend says, look, in so many words, forget the principle. Forget the principle, something along the lines of, lose the battle, win the war. And just you citing that movie, man, I didn't think you had it in you, but I thought that was awesome.
that's one of my favorite movies, actually. Just
Heck
say,
yeah.
I love Cedric. He's from St. Louis, He went to Berkeley High School. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm familiar. So that realist dudes in real estate, as the kids would say, you're a real one. You're a
Yeah.
real one. So
Well,
yeah,
and I appreciate you. I appreciate how you have really accelerated, dude. I mean, I know without a shadow of a doubt, your mom is proud of you. I guarantee it. I mean, everything you've done, you were just getting started,
hey
which is
man,
cool, which is
I
very,
it means a lot coming from you. I really appreciate that. So focusing back in on you, I'd like to know, John. Well, I kind of have an idea. I brag on you quite a bit, but for the folks that don't know you, tell me how long you've been in real estate. What
um,
did you do?
well,
Got a couple of them here. Hold on. What did you do, if anything, prior to real estate? I don't know if you waited tables, whatever. And what does John Williams enjoy doing when he's not working? I know I keep you pretty busy with all my phone calls on a weekly basis, but when you get a little break from me, what do you enjoy doing?
Okay. So what I was doing before, I used to work for McDonnell Douglas, and for those of you who are listening, that would be Boeing these days. Okay. And I used to design databases for them. That's why I had a little bit of a tech background. Before that, I was a bartender, which was probably one of my best jobs ever. I
Oh, no kidding.
at a nightclub that would be comparable to the pageant or the factory here. A lot of, in fact, BB King actually said on David, um, was it David? What was who? I can't his name. He was a night host. He just basically said BB King said it was the best place he ever played. We had great bands. It was the biggest place between DC and Atlanta. So a lot of people like it was in the mountains. So a lot of the people would like to tour through there and vacation and just play a show. So, but that was a great job. But I came here, had to get a real job, McDonnell Douglas, and then I decided to get into real estate because what happened was I wanted to buy a house, and I figured the best way to buy a house was to learn to sell houses, and so I started selling part time, and then I started doing as good as I was doing at McDonnell Douglas, and so I quit McDonnell Douglas and went full time, and that's been about 40. I've been in it 40 plus years.
40
Yeah,
plus years. Holy cow. And
I
for
know.
the you kind of slid in that tech background. Let me brag on you a little bit more. I remember when we first got into this brokerage years back, I remember my mom kind of bragging on you guys and you guys' forethought to buy up all these different, during the dot-com bubble, buy up all these different zip codes, 63146.com, 63141.com, stlouisopen.com. You guys were ahead of the game with all that. Us
Mhm.
more agents have reaped the reward in lead generation and whatnot since then. But I think that's awesome. And I do want to hear about what you like to do when you catch that break in real estate. What's John doing?
Well, John really likes to do, but John hasn't had a chance to do a lot to do, but John has likes to do hiking. And with being living in the mountains, I didn't get to go hiking this year, but I like to do a lot of outdoor stuff. Used to do a lot of cycling, not like Dennis, but used to do, more trail riding type stuff. Um, and used to play basketball, but the knees say, although I did play with some guys about a little while ago, but yeah, so it's kind of how you change things. I think that probably what my answer would be is I am enjoying, I'm enjoying obviously grandkids, things like that. I mean, you go through it, and I think we've talked about it. I mean, I feel like I'm a very young person at my age, and so I just like being creative. I love real estate, and I love helping people and just kind of hanging with people. So it's kind of, I don't play golf. And people go, oh, I want to play golf. No, it takes so much time.
Maybe
Um,
we can learn together, John. I don't play golf really yet either, but maybe that's something we can compete in.
you know
I
what?
I don't think you'd be much competition on the basketball court, but golf course,
You
we
know what, dude? I'm gonna tell you something. We'll talk about that later.
can.
You and me and Timmy, we'll all go out and hoop a little bit. How about
All
that?
right. Maybe you gave him a pig or something. I think you probably got a good jump shot on you.
I used to.
I
Anyway.
do. All right. Getting back into this, I'm curious, kind of tying into that 40 plus years of experience there, John. There's something to be said about that. I'm sure probably got a lot to answer this, but biggest changes in real estate that you've noticed, witnessed since you started. I know that's very blanketed, but if you could maybe give me a couple
Yeah.
biggest changes.
I'll tell you what, I'll just give it to you. And I know that you said they might have some agents listening or whatever. In my humble opinion, it is so much easier to do business in this. I mean, it may be less business or maybe people might think the market's tough, but right now, when I first got into the business, my first house was 13.5% interest. I
Mm,
mean, I don't think people appreciate when we're screaming at 7 to 8% when it was got that high. 13.5% interest. Granted, the prices weren't as high, but there were a lot of other things that were there. I mean, I'll give you a quick story, and we didn't have digital signature. We didn't have lock boxes. Um, Probably you would not, I don't know, probably a lot of people that you talk with, they probably weren't born, but in 19, I think it was 91, or 90, when we had what was called Desert Shield, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, the market just shot. It just went totally silent for like about 4 or 5 months. Everybody was, oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible. Everybody was worried. The first Bush was president. And when we went in and actually kind of kicked Saddam out of Kuwait, and it was the whole thing had just happened really quick, it was like this market relief. And I remember on Super Bowl that year, and I need to go look and see who was playing. I'm going to say it was 91. Super Bowl that year, and I'm not exaggerating this. I ended up selling like 10 houses that day. I had 14 offers
Oh,
because the market was just solely, it was just, it blew up. Everybody was ecstatic. The war was over. Everybody was, everybody's worried. But here's the deal. There was no electronic signature. I had to meet everybody physical. I started getting offers at about noon that day. I don't even know who was playing. I don't even remember. I need to look it up for the story. But I literally was calling people and telling them, I will be at your house at 1:30, and I meant AM to present
oh
that offer.
my gosh. I was going to ask about past midnight.
Oh, I went till about 3 a.m. that day. I ended up, I had 14 offers and I sold 10 of the houses. And it was just the craziest thing. And so now you and I know you can do that digitally. You have no problem doing that. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that has happened. Gosh, I mean, everything's electronic. And let me just say this. And because it's that way, it's so much easier to do business that I think it's actually hurt some of the agents that they think it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's made people, I don't want to say this, but they're like helicopter agents. They say they look at this, they see stuff, and I've preached you need to go out and look at properties.
Yeah.
You need to know your product. You need to actually know the market. I mean, if you're looking at Zillow and so is your clients, what good are you? This is my
Right.
point.
No, that's very true. Yeah, touching on that, schooling me up on how important it is to look at the current competition and go touring those homes and not being so reliant on just the photos and whatnot, because that's, forgive my language, the half-assed approach to taking as a listing agent. And I
I
think there's a lot of, yeah, a lot of truth to that. And like you said, I think it's detrimental how easy things are to these agents, because it seems like a lot of times a lot of information's missed on listings. They're just throwing photos in, they're throwing a list price in without any backing, very arbitrary number, and hoping for the best. So,
You know what? There's an old saying that even a turkey can fly in a hurricane. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that got in this business and thought it was the easiest thing in the last 5 years, and they're going to be surprised. It doesn't work that way. I've seen it go up and I've seen it go down.
flying a
Good
hurricane, I like
agents
it.
do well. Good agents do well all the time, but it's just, yeah, what can I say?
Okay, good agents do well. Piggybacking on that, to make yourself, I guess, let me rephrase that. Top three success habits, or maybe just a couple of them, successful habits a new agent can instill in order to be a good agent. What are some things that, because like I mentioned, we are kind of catering this to some maybe folks looking to get into real estate part-time, full-time, whatever the case may be. Whatever a few habits that they can start in to make sure that they are that good agent?
Well, I can tell you, I had a bad experience when I first started. When I took for granted that I knew everything because I was getting my license. I went through my license course when I was getting my MBA and while I was working at McDonnell Douglas, and so I got in. I just thought I knew everything, and I didn't know everything. And I remember in 1985, it was on my birthday. That's why I remember the date. I had three transactions going. I had just got married in like the end of 1984, and so it was in April. And I remember every one of those deals died,
Oh,
and one of them went to lawsuit, and it involved one of my wife's bridesmaids.
mm,
How do you think that worked? Now I
wow,
had a fork in the road there. I was doing very well at McDonnell Douglas. I could have decided to, get out of this, but what I did was, I um, I realized at that point I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn this business. Now, you have to remember, I was full time in McDonald Douglas. There was no training. The training would be during the week. I couldn't go to classes. Do you see? So,
right,
what I did was I started pursuing designations like CRS and CRB, things in real estate to teach me to learn. So, the first thing I would say is this: just because you got a license don't mean you know anything.
yeah,
You don't know anything. You just know how to pass the test.
that's right.
That's it. And if you passed it one time, and I'm not going to throw names out here, but I know somebody that took at least 10 times to pass the test. You know what? It's not you, Giuseppe, by the way. Just want to
Say, don't
right
throw
now,
it
it's
out
not.
there like that.
But I will say this is that that person's a great agent
Yeah,
because they told me they ain't a quitter. That's the other part. So learning and pushing through and not being a quitter and really being committed. And
yeah,
I mean, learning is a continual thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a continual thing. Right.
I
So
if I could add to that, I think, what's allowed me to be successful is the fact that I did not have, to an extent at least, that same baptism by fire. I was brought up on not only a really good brokerage, but a really good team. And that paid dividends, having somebody to bounce questions off of, kind of learn the ropes from. So it's not necessarily a habit, but maybe a goal of somebody looking to get into this industry would be finding a good team, as well as obviously good brokerage to learn the ropes from. Maybe get some opportunities, fail, but when that time does come to fail, you got somebody to kind of coach you through that. And you guys have been that way
yeah.
for us, for me, and yeah, I'm
I think
super grateful for that.
you're going to make mistakes, and I think the thing is that it's where you learn from those mistakes. Okay. And that's the biggest thing. And I heard this the other day. I was listening to a webinar, and it says a good agent thinks 2 to 3 moves ahead of the game.
Mhm.
And that's where I told that to these people because I kind of went through their house and there were some things that they needed to do still get to get ready. And they're not running ready, but I'd had them paint it. They'd done a bunch of stuff. And I just told them, I said, these are, and I went through and I don't mince words. I mean, I'll tell you, don't do this, don't do that. And but I'm thinking through to every objection that I think a buyer may say to their property. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what you do. That's what you do. I mean, and so yeah, it's that kind of stuff. So yeah, but
And
learning, but I can tell you something. Learning to say it in a way that makes impress, that they trust you
right.
because I mean, yeah, you're part of the deal now. So
Yeah, backing it by, I know you guys are always, analytical side, backing it by numbers is something that I always find confidence in. If I'm going to go and, put an opinion on something, whether it be a list price or an offer price or something like that, of course, we've got some ingrained knowledge, wisdom from the market, but usually, I'm making every effort to back it by comparable homes currently on the market, homes that have sold, trends that we're seeing in the given area. Uh,
mhm.
so tying into the ideas for successful habits, new agents, maybe a couple things, or maybe just one, something that you would do differently if you were able to, start at day one. I think you said 1985 or so.
I think we figured out. I think it was 84, because I got this award last year from the National Association of Realtors. So for my longevity, hallelujah. I've lived that long. That's awesome. But no, it was kind of funny. But you had to have served and accomplished, done certain things. And obviously I've been pretty involved with the association. But um, what I would do differently today, well, I think I mentioned that to you. I would not have thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I would have definitely, I would not have wanted to, I think I've said this to you. Some lessons are taught, some are caught, and others are bought. I don't want to buy, I try not to buy lessons. I try to listen to people to learn, and I observe to catch, but I have bought a few.
Yeah.
I bought 5-digit type lessons.
Oh yeah, I have not there yet. Hopefully taking a bit of your wisdom here. Don't get to that point. But yeah, if I could summarize that, be the sponge, be the sponge, take in what you can, like you just said. Don't act like you know everything. It's hard for us that are in it every day that, that we feel like we do know it all. And that it's, I know I'm doing this the right way, or, going about this conversation in the manner in which I see is best, but there's always room for improvement. I'm sure even for you picking some things up along the way. But yeah, that's very, especially for hard-headed individuals like me who really think we we know it all.
Well, the other thing is too, I think that anybody getting in this business, a new agent, I think they I think what they want, they think they want, is that they want this flexibility and they want the ability to not have a limit as far as on their income. But I think what happens is, I continually tell people, every time I sell somebody a property or close, I said, listen, I got a problem. And they say, what? I said, I'm unemployed now. I need your help. Who do you know that can replace you in kind of a nice way? And we all laugh about it, but who do you know? But the fact of the matter is, I understand that I have to have a system, a daily system, a regiment. No one's telling me to do it. And the Lord's blessed me with the ability to be very persistent,
Mhm.
and I have to work hard to be consistent.
Oh,
There's two different things there. Persistent, I'm going to go for it. Consistency, mm, that's a little bit harder.
are you
Okay.
gonna go for it every day or
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
allotment? Okay,
Well,
yeah.
having a plan and working that plan, and I think that's yeah, I think that's the key. And look, we have to have time, we have to have downtime. I mean, I think back to when I was really kicking it. When I was selling 100 homes a year, there was no internet. Okay.
That's hard to fathom. That's a
I
lot of
know. So I
time.
look at now and people go and I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't even know. I mean, and I mean, I could really go old school on you and say like there used to be no lock boxes, so we had to go pick up keys and we had to take them back. I mean, it was a nightmare.
Did you have any social life during those days, or was it all just
You
business 24/7?
Somehow it all worked out. I don't even know. I mean, we had a young family and, my wife worked with me as she still does. And so, I don't know. Yeah, you make it work, but it's not, look, this is what's interesting is I love what you're doing. And it's a different game. Real estate's the same. Connections are different. And I'm big about making connections. Do you see what I'm saying? This closing I had today was a guy I met over at men's breakfast at a church, a young guy. He's actually from Germany, and I didn't intend to sell him a property, but we became friends.
Mhm.
And I never ever asked him, "Let me help you." Didn't even know he had the capability. And boom, closed the day on the property.
Absolutely.
Cash.
Absolutely. That's a good story. I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. Touching on something that you and Dennis have accomplished, I forgive me, I should know more as a brokerage, something you guys started yourselves, built it up to be pretty darn reputable, very much so respectable brokerage and what you guys have been able to do, title company relations, everything. Bias aside here, what makes More and its agents stand out compared to other brokerages you've seen over the last 40 years?
Well, I will say this is that I think that well, first of all, what is when I and actually I started more years ago and I will say this. I always kid everybody. I say, hey, I'm fluff. Dennis is stuff. I mean, if you want like a good spin on something, ask me. When I was the president of St. Louis Association in 2008, I did a lot of TV interviews and they said, oh, John, you're great for like sound bites. And that's about me. I'm a sound bite guy. Dennis, as your mom would say, you can make a short story long. I mean, he'll go to detail. but but
Yeah.
the funny thing is that Moore actually stood for Missouri Online Real Estate. And this is before anything was online because we were doing so many different things. We were there. I mean, before when COVID came in, it was a big yawner for us. We were already virtual.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it was no worries. So I think where we've gotten to what I give this up to Dennis. Dennis is a very organized, very detailed person. And I think what we've really tried to do is to really give agents a thought process on how to do business in a professional way to treat this as a profession because I see too many times people they just think it's a quick buck type situation and they see that and I'm like and I mean how many times do you call me or somebody else call me and go this is what this other agent's doing and it's cuckoo and I mean I'm like wow I mean you just realize the lack of professionalism out there because I think in the end of the day I think what people want to really know is that their agent knows what they're doing
Yep.
and can make those thought process 2 to 3 steps ahead to keep, to make, hey, this is what could happen. And another thing is to be, and this is what I would go back to, something I wish I had been better in the beginning. I try to do it now, is to be an extreme communicator.
Yep. Yep.
Always keep my clients informed. No reason to hide. I mean, not that I would hide anything, but my point is sometimes you think you're shielding it from them to help them. No, let them know and tell them you're working on it, but keep them informed. I think us trying to do things to help people, no, everybody's an adult here. You got to deal with it. So, and you
And
can't help it. So,
let's be honest, that extreme communicator is pretty much expected now in a day where we can fire off a quick text or a quick email, not necessarily have to pick up the phone and make a call.
Right.
People expect that level of professionalism. And yeah, you guys have not only equipped us with those lessons, but also equipped us with the technology to back us as professionals. I mean, that's something like I mentioned, an analytical type that I can't get enough of. The comp reports that you guys are able to, help us draw up, listing action reports, all that stuff. I'm not seeing exactly what other agents are doing behind the scenes, but I know that we're toe to toe with anybody out there when it comes to market data, our ability to quickly get that information and share it in an efficient way.
Mhm.
The systems that we have in place, you know, I can't say enough about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, again, very grateful for that. John, wrapping this up, I want to end on something light here, something kind of funny. I know you've got at least one crazy transaction story, probably multiple crazy transaction stories, maybe even some that you can't speak on. I know there's probably some that you can't speak on. But give me one that comes to mind where you got to the closing table and you were like, "Man, how in the heck did we even get here? How did we get to this point?"
All right. I had to think about that one for a little bit, but I think this is a safe one. I had helped a young couple. I knew them from church. I'd helped a young couple buy they were renting a house over in Maplewood, and they ended up buying or they put a contract on a property over in Rock Hill. But in the middle of it, it turns out that the seller actually was kind of hooked up on meth, one of the sellers, and he couldn't be located. And so that property, while they had a contract on it and they really wanted to move in, um, it was about to go into foreclosure. Which you would think, oh, great, it's not that easy. You just don't get to buy the house. I mean, literally, we had a contract. We were surprised. Everything was going good, but my people had thought they could move in, so they were being forced out of their apartment or the house where they were renting. So they said, "Can we lease the property?" And I said, what, until it closed? He goes, yeah. I said, listen, this thing may get foreclosed and you can get booted. And he goes, so anyway, make a long story short, and I don't always do this, but this is an example of communication and making sure people understand. I went down there, I had the listing agent meet me there. I had my wife with me, and I'm just saying, I told them, I do not tell you to do this. I'm telling you not to move in here. Okay, don't do it. Well, they moved in and we were able to close, but I'll tell you what happened. They were minutes away from losing that property. And what I mean is that I literally took a check at 4:55 on a Friday, I think, because the foreclosure is going to be on Monday to the lender. I had to drive it to them, not the lender, to the attorney to get it closed.
Holy cow.
It was a crazy, and
I think literally by the skin of your teeth, minutes.
I mean minutes. I mean, and it's funny. Yeah, you have things like that. I mean, I have crazy deals going on. It seems like every deal's a little crazy. But I recently had one where and this is nothing, but it just you learn after a while, don't just figure that out. Just figure out how to make this work. And I had one where my clients got a little bit strong with a property about negotiating with on an inspection, and they kind of went deeper, thinking they smelled blood or something. I don't know in the water, and the seller decided, I'm not going to sell you. I, I I don't want you to have the house.
Mm-hmm.
The deal died,
Wow.
and my people were like, "Dang it, we really like that house." I'm like, "He don't want to sell to y'all."
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So we waited, and the other agent said he won't talk to me. I said, all right, all right. So I said, I called up and after my clients, I said, listen, y'all need to write an apology letter to him. I'm
Yeah.
just telling. And I knew, and I called the other agent, said, do you think this would work? She goes, I don't know, but just try it. We sent the letter over there, and this was like about 10 days after the deal was dead. And he goes, okay, I'll sell it to him.
Wow.
And he agreed to the terms that he had agreed to an inspection. But you know what? A lot of agents wouldn't have done that. They
No.
wouldn't. I mean, it was a dead deal. I mean, I've saved a couple of them here recently. You have to be, this is what our job is, to help people. And my people are tickled pink, man. They're so excited about this house. I'm like, I knew because we had looked for 6.5, 7 months for a perfect property. That was it. And
Yeah,
then it got, the old saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I'm
that's
just,
right. I think people forget how emotionally charged some of these conversations can be when buying and selling, and it takes a level-headed agent to kind of keep things, not under wraps, but just keep things moving along as they should. In a situation like that where, yeah, they did push the envelope and obviously deal had died because of it. It takes a level-headed individual to say, hey, swallow your pride here, write this letter, let's see what we can do. Like you just said, and a lot of agents aren't going to have that kind of wisdom to make something like that happen.
yeah.
But that's why, our job is important because we have these experiences. It probably wasn't the first time that you've seen something like that happen where a buyer gets a little aggressive on the inspection side. And yeah, to be able to coach somebody through that, take the emotion out of it, be that mediator, if you will. It's a part of our role, right? So
Well, I will say this, and I know we're wrapping up, but I didn't finish on what more was. We changed from being just that online thing to the acronym MORE, standing for Masters of Real Estate, because we got the technology. Let's really make it so that people have that training. So when we're sharing those type of things in core, we're talking about these are situations that are going on. Hopefully somebody's learning that, what, don't ever think through these processes, and maybe I can maybe apply that story that John just said or Giuseppe just said or whoever just said, and maybe I can apply that and keep that in my knowledge base because that was a message that I taught or I caught versus I bought.
versus the one you bought. That's right. That's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
John, I appreciate it. This has been great. Just wealth of knowledge. I'm hoping that anyone that sees this that's interested in pursuing real estate, of course, they have conversations with myself, but conversations I can, forward on to you, because you're the real one. You're the real one, man. I'm very grateful for all that you do, all that you've taught me, saved me out of a lot of purchased lessons. So I think I might owe you. I don't know. We'll have to figure that one out. But you have a
Yeah.
good rest of your evening, and thanks again.
All right, brother. I appreciate you.
All righty.